So I wanted to talk about what I feel it means to be a patriot during this season of celebrating our country's 250th birthday and a lot of turmoil as usual. I guess it's nothing really new, but specifically around people that don't feel like celebrating, that don't feel like they have a whole lot to celebrate, and then the other side of my friends and family that become frustrated or just disappointed in feeling like you're just not much of a patriot if you can't get out of your political views long enough to celebrate an amazing country that has, in lots of cases, giving us so much to be thankful for, things that very likely could not have been possible in other places. So I guess in my quest to better myself and approach all of these difficult topics in a manner of seeking to be understood as well as seeking to understand people with different viewpoints, instead of just slipping into the comment section and posting a fact check or a little sarcasm, which I tend to do and I have done. I'm just gonna try to articulate kind of where I'm coming from with this and where I see a lot of other people online. We can fall into that two things can be true at once. Like, everything doesn't have to be, if you're a conservative, you're really patriotic and you love everything about the moment that we're in. And if you're a liberal, you can't celebrate this time because then you'd be celebrating the person at the top of the country who we all will not, we refuse to celebrate. So you know where I am in with that. But I took some of these sort of statements and ideas that I saw either on news or in different interviews and different celebrations that were aired, and some of them just reminded me older quotes, but I think it sort of helped me a little bit because other people say things so much better. And as far as what it means to be a patriot, I feel that there's this conflation with that if you don't show deference or a certain level of respect for the leader of your country, then you must not love your country. And that's obviously where there is a large difference here. Those of us who are not thrilled with our president right now, part of our problem is that he does his best to put himself in the center of everything. That is his MO. That's part of who he is. He can't undo that. So instead of our country celebration, he makes it about his birthday. I don't think there's anything celebrating our 250th that comes with mixed martial arts on our lawn that we have to pay for instance. There's some sarcasm, sorry. But the point is that when people say to liberals that you have to make everything about Trump derangement syndrome, you can't celebrate your country just because you don't like the president, it would be easier if we had a president that didn't put himself in the center of everything. I saw past celebrations, and I think the one in '76 where literally the president didn't even give a speech there, because the point was, it was very much, it was a conscious effort that this wasn't about the president, that it was about the country. And so they had all sorts of exhibits about, you know, the development in science and all great things that people in our country has done. It's about the citizens of the country, not the leader of the country at that moment. And that was another analogy that I saw that I liked too. Somebody talking about, as just individuals, when we celebrate major milestones in our lives, I may or may not have one coming up. We tend to, you don't just celebrate that day. You don't just say, you know, I've turned fill in the blank. And so it's all exciting. And depending on what your life has been, celebrating that milestone is about looking back and saying, I've been through some horrible things. I've been through, not me personally necessarily, but all of us will have been through some loss, been through some tragedy, maybe some major transformations, reinventing ourselves, finding ourselves, being saved. So that milestone is looking back at everything that brought you to this point, not that day. And that is what our leader really enjoys. Trump is all about the pageantry, and we're just, you know, we're not England, we're not celebrating a court, a king or a queen and their presence that they bless us with. We're supposed to be looking at all the things that led us to this point. And if you're going to do that, and if you're going to be honest, there's a lot of horrible history to our country. And I heard our vice president say, you know, you'll talk to people that will have to bring up the, you know, some of the bad moments in our country, again, as if that's not patriotic. And that reminded me of the quote of a coach that I never would have known, I'm sorry to say, but now he's infamous as far as I'm concerned, Doc Rivers. That it was during the Black Lives Matter protest that he ended up, I guess, kind of breaking down on camera, giving an interview and saying that it's amazing why we keep loving this country and this country does not love us back. And I've, you know, seen stories and learning about history. It just amazes me. Sorry, more technical difficulties. Always the case. So anyway, I was just saying that it amazes me, some of these stories from history, that these Black men went off to defend our country and came home and had to drink out of different fountains and use different bathrooms and would get beaten up if they tried to vote. Like, I just think that it's important that, especially as white people, that we don't oversimplify what patriotism is about. It's not just about wearing red, white, and blue and who has the biggest flag and who's the loudest pronouncer of how great our country is. Sometimes it's about people that still love this country, even though it doesn't love them back. And it hasn't loved their ancestors back. And even in recent times, very recent times, it's taking away their rights instead of expanding rights. And they feel like they're living in a regressive time instead of progressing to a more perfect nation, which is what our goal used to be. And I guess some people seem to think a more perfect nation doesn't include some of those same people that have fought so hard to be included, to be able to vote, to be able to make decisions for themselves, to be able to love who they want to and not be discriminated against, to just be considered equal, not more or not less, and to not have to fight for it. So I would say my definition of patriotism is people have had to fight harder with much less to show of it and still love this country. I think that's true patriotism. And I don't think it should be discounted. And again, especially if you're white, I think you just take a moment if you see people or hear a lot of people saying certain things about why they don't feel like celebrating their country this year. I don't know, maybe just listen to what they're saying and why. And don't just have it be a knee-jerk reaction to just be exasperated because they're not patriotic enough. I think we just need to spend more time thinking about all of us, the experience that many people have had in this country and have just as much of a right to this country as we do. We meaning white people. And I don't think there's any, I guess, better way to say that. I think that's it. And I hope this helps a little bit with understanding this side of it. And I seek to do the same. Thanks.